They didn't want him to be a prince or a princess, not knowing what the gender would be, which would be different from protocol.
The most powerful family in Britain just carried out the ultimate assassination. No blood, no press release, no headlines, just silence, devastating, deliberate, and final. One figure was erased from the royal narrative without a single word spoken. No public shaming, no second chances, just a cold, calculated decision behind gilded doors. And the victim? Someone once embraced by the crown, now permanently exiled without explanation. But who made the call? And what unforgivable line did she cross? The silent assassination. It's now undeniable. Meghan Markle has been quietly, permanently erased from the royal fold. Not in theory, not in whispers, but in firm, practiced reality. No meetings, no reconciliations, not even the cold civility of a royal hello. She's gone for good. The decision didn't come with a headline or a public blowout. It arrived like winter frost, silent, deliberate, and impossible to ignore. And at its core was Prince William. This wasn't a PR maneuver or some polite retreat, as seen in the past. This was a line in the sand, drawn with quiet finality. For the monarchy, yes, but even more so for Catherine, for the wife whose dignity Meghan had allegedly tarnished once too often. The breaking point, insiders say, came after Harry's latest televised outpouring. Another round of familiar grievances most believe were finally laid to rest. But it wasn't just Harry's voice this time. It was Meghan's presence behind him, unspoken, unmistakable. And that's what shattered the peace. William, known for his discipline and restraint, didn't lash out. He didn't stage a media war. Instead, he froze, calmly, permanently, a silence colder than any royal protocol. And when it came to cost, Meghan Markle will be barred from royal grounds, family engagements, and even private conversations, especially around Catherine. This is an exaggeration. Palace aides have allegedly received strict instructions. Meghan's name is off limits, especially in Kate's presence. Her health, her healing, and her peace of mind are now William's top priority. And in this chilling act of omission, William made something abundantly clear. His allegiance lies with his wife, not his brother's unraveling. If Harry couldn't untangle himself from Meghan's relentless narrative, the door would remain closed. Not slammed, but sealed. What stunned insiders most was the way it happened. No royal statement, no counter-interview, no response, just silence. And that's the one thing Meghan reportedly can't stand. No spotlight, no platform, no battle to fight, just absence. And make no mistake, this wasn't Catherine's decision alone. This was William stepping fully into his future role. A prince becoming a king in principle, choosing legacy over loyalty, duty over blood. Meghan Markle is no longer part of the royal story. And in the end, it's the silence that says everything. The original betrayal. For years, the world whispered about a rift between Meghan Markle and Catherine, Princess of Wales. Tabloids hinted. Headlines danced around the truth. But inside the palace's glittering halls, the reality was far more devastating than anyone imagined. According to multiple royal insiders, the breakdown between these two women wasn't caused by one dramatic argument or one harsh word. It was years in the making. A slow, quiet unraveling fueled by distrust, tension, and unspoken emotional warfare, until something finally snapped and the damage became irreversible. From the very beginning, the bond was brittle. The palace had once dreamed of a new Fab Four. William and Kate, Harry and Meghan. Youthful, modern, united. That fairy tale barely survived its first chapter. Behind closed doors, the dynamic was anything but harmonious. Meghan, bold and independent, was used to forging her own path, to speaking her mind. Catherine, graceful and composed, stood as a quiet embodiment of royal tradition. Their energies clashed, not in public, but in 1,000 small, private ways. And beneath the surface, something colder began to grow. The now infamous wedding week dispute was just the tip of the iceberg. Who made whom cry? The press obsessed over it. But what mattered wasn't the tears. It was what came after. The pain didn't come from the disagreement itself, sources say, but from how Meghan later used the moment, in interviews, in headlines, On Oprah, she painted Catherine not just as distant, but as cold, complicit, unkind. And for Catherine, that portrayal shattered something sacred, not just her public image, but the fragile peace she had tried so hard to maintain. It wasn't about ego, it was about hurt. Still, William and Kate held their composure. They smiled, they showed up, they tried. For the sake of the monarchy, they played their part. But every time Meghan returned to the spotlight with new truth, the old wounds reopened, and the distance widened. But the real fracture started long before the wedding. It was 2016. Harry brought Meghan into the royal fold for the first time. William, protective as ever, didn't offer congratulations. He offered caution. He urged Harry to slow down. "You barely know this girl," he said. This girl. 2 simple words. But to Harry, they were everything. He heard judgment. He heard dismissal. He heard his brother rejecting the woman he loved. And he exploded. "You're trying to destroy this before it's even begun." That moment, raw, unfiltered, marked the first crack in the brotherhood that weathered Diana's death. Tabloid storms and the crushing weight of royal duty. It wasn't the press. It wasn't the public. It was personal. And it left a scar that never fully healed. What followed wasn't just a family disagreement. It was a slow-motion collapse. And behind every wave of smiles, behind every royal wave, was a truth the world couldn't see until now. The war behind palace walls. By 2018, the elegant corridors of Kensington Palace had become something else entirely. A battlefield. The staff, once unified in quiet service, found themselves split in two. Team Cambridge, Team Sussex. And in that high-stakes divide, neutrality wasn't just discouraged. It was impossible. Behind the polished smiles and carefully curated family appearances, a quiet civil war was raging. Whispered complaints turned into cries for help. Aides were breaking down in private offices. Some reduced to tears at their desks. Others left entirely, citing stress and emotional exhaustion. The pressure, they said, was relentless. And at the very center of the storm, Meghan Markle. Within William's circle, a belief began to harden. That Meghan wasn't just struggling to adjust to royal life. She was the one destabilizing it. William confronted Harry not once, but several times. The topic was always the same: staff complaints, mood swings, micromanaging, demand that seemed to some impossibly entitled. But Harry didn't see unreasonable behavior. He saw racism. He saw envy. He saw a woman he loved being dissected and attacked by a system that never wanted her to belong. The brothers who had once been inseparable, who had survived grief and grown into men together, were suddenly staring at the same crisis and seeing 2 entirely different truths. Then came the moment they hoped would fix it all, or at least stop the bleeding. A secret summit. No cameras, no advisors. Just William, Kate, Harry, and Meghan seated in a private apartment inside Kensington Palace. What was said behind those doors remains one of the most carefully guarded secrets in royal history. But those close to the family say it was anything but a reconciliation. What we do know is this: Meghan left the room in tears. Harry's face was thunder, and William emerged with his jaw set, convinced more than ever that his sister-in-law was not simply difficult, but dangerous. To the monarchy, to its future, to the very stability of the institution he was born to protect. Whatever happened that day, it drew a permanent line between the past and what came next. And the palace has never been the same since. The nuclear strikes. The final blow came in May. A BBC interview that, on the surface, seemed careful. No names, no direct accusations. But between the lines, the message was unmistakable. Prince Harry spoke once again of the institution, of pain, of mistreatment. And while he avoided direct blame, the palace heard what wasn't said. Meghan's voice echoed in every word. This time, it wasn't just a PR headache. It was personal. Catherine, still recovering from a serious and private health battle, was devastated. She had stepped away from public duties, shielded by William at every turn. But now, another storm, another headline, another wound. And this time, William reached his limit. Behind closed doors, He summoned his top advisors. The message was swift and unequivocal. Meghan Markle's name was to be erased from palace life. Not in meetings, not in conversation, not even in passing. Communications teams were told to cut her from talking points. Event planners were instructed to eliminate any chance of overlap. This wasn't distancing. It was deletion, and it had been building for years. The Oprah interview, where Meghan accused Kate of making her cry. Fully aware of the impact, the Netflix docuseries, designed to dismantle the monarchy that once embraced her. Spare, where Harry didn't just express pain, he exposed private moments, including the claim that William physically attacked him. These weren't personal slights. They were attacks on the institution. And William, no longer just a brother, but the heir to the throne, knew what had to be done. From that day forward, Meghan Markle wouldn't just be unwelcome. She would be unseen, unspoken, unremembered, not a royal, not even a relative, just a ghost of a chapter the monarchy chose to close, forever. Kate's health crisis, the final straw. Inside the palace, everything shifted. What began as cold tolerance for Meghan Markle had hardened into deliberate exclusion. No more strained smiles, no more uneasy civility. And perhaps most surprisingly, Catherine, the ever-graceful, ever-gentle Princess of Wales, reportedly supported the decision completely. Those closest to her insist it wasn't about pettiness, not about revenge. It was about something far more human, peace of mind. Catherine had been carrying a silent burden. Meghan's presence, even her name, had become a source of deep emotional strain. Every time Kate took a fragile step forward in her recovery, it felt like Meghan's words, or Harry's interviews, dragged her 2 steps back. The damage wasn't always visible, but it was constant, and it hurt. One source revealed that William's decision to enforce the ban wasn't a moment of fury. It was a calculated, protective act, a line drawn not in anger, but in love, for Catherine and for the crown, the 2 pillars he's sworn to defend. And once that line was drawn, there would be no crossing it again. Not with apologies, not with reconciliation, not even with Harry. Meghan Markle had caused enough harm. And for William, that wasn't just a decision. It was a vow, a quiet, unshakable promise made in the shadows of the palace. One he intended to keep no matter the headlines, no matter the pressure, no matter how loudly the world screamed outside the gates of Buckingham Palace. What the public didn't see, what the cameras never captured, was just how serious Catherine's health crisis had become. Behind the smiles, behind the elegant gowns and royal waves, was a woman fighting a silent war. She had shown up, she had smiled, but privately, she was enduring intensive treatment for a condition far more severe than anyone had guessed. And William watched. He watched the woman who had given him 3 beautiful children, the woman who had stood beside him through scandal, loss, and duty, begin to crack beneath the relentless pressure from across the Atlantic. And in that quiet, heart-wrenching moment, he made his choice, not as a prince, but as a husband. Meghan's empire crumbles. For years, Prince William was a calm in a royal storm, measured, diplomatic, and steady, especially beside his more impulsive brother. But now, insiders whisper of a shift. A new William has emerged, not angry, not emotional, but strategic, ruthless, final. And nowhere is that clarity more evident than in how he handled Meghan Markle. According to palace sources, the decision to impose a lifelong, unofficial ban on Meghan didn't erupt from drama. It unfolded quietly, behind closed doors. William, composed and exacting, declared she was no longer welcome. Not in the palace, not at royal events, not in the monarchy's future. There would be no truce, no calls, no olive branch. This wasn't a pause, it was silent exile, not by title, but in every practical sense. What shocked insiders was a method. Silence. No statements. No leaks. No public spectacle. Just a quiet series of internal moves that erased Meghan from the royal ecosystem. Her name was removed from briefings. Staff were told not to mention her near Catherine. Schedules were scrubbed of any overlap. It wasn't banishment. It was erasure. He won't give her a headline, one aide said. He gives her silence, and that's worse. This wasn't revenge. It was responsibility. With King Charles's health in question, William has stepped deeper into the monarchy's power structure, and he sees Meghan as a threat to its stability, image, and future. Meanwhile, Meghan's world began shrinking. The Netflix empire fizzled. The Spotify deal canceled. Her children's show scrapped. Her lifestyle brand, American Riviera Orchard, was quietly rebranded as ever after a disappointing launch. The contrast is stark. One man quietly preparing to wear the crown, through restraint, not noise. The other watching her media empire crack under the weight of overexposure. And in between them, a silence louder than any royal decree. Harry's impossible choice. If silence is Meghan's punishment, then Harry's pain runs deeper. His torment isn't erasure, it's choice. He now stands between two worlds, the woman he loves and a family that wants to find him. He walks a razor-thin line between devotion and legacy, emotion and responsibility. And with William's quiet but permanent ban on Meghan now in place, the pressure has never been greater. For years, Harry never flinched. He stood by Meghan through Oprah, the Netflix series, and Spare, his memoir-turned-manifesto. He portrayed the monarchy as a cold machine, casting himself not as a prince, but as its casualty. And yet, even as he stepped away, he never truly let go. But something is shifting. Behind William's icy silence lies an unspoken offer, still open, but only for Harry. Not for both. Not for the brand. Just him. Sources say Meghan's name is now banned in royal circles. But Harry's? It still carries hope. William and Catherine, though wounded, have drawn a boundary. Family first. If he returns alone, he's blood. One aide said, there's still love, but it's no longer unconditional. William, once Harry's fiercest protector, has drawn this line not out of spite, but survival. He saw the interviews, the jabs, the headlines, and in each he saw Meghan's hand. To him, Harry became the face of a movement aiming to undo the monarchy from the outside in. Still, the door remains cracked open. Charles, and to some extent William, hope for a return, not as a media figure, but as the prince they once knew. But that return demands sacrifice. No more deals, no more veiled digs, no more PR wars dressed as healing. And that is the tragedy. Harry cannot walk away. Meghan isn't just his wife. She's the foundation of his new identity. Their brand, their beliefs, their future. It's all built around her. To leave now would feel like betrayal. Not just of her, but of himself. But the cost of loyalty keeps rising. Meghan's star is fading. Projects have stalled. Public sympathy is shifting. And Harry, once adored as a royal rebel, risks being pulled down by the very story he helped write. His old friends? Gone. His royal cousins? Distant. The press? Ruthless. And with William guarding the gates more tightly than ever, Harry stands exactly where he once feared. A prince without a realm. A brother without a bridge. And a man running out of time to choose which kingdom, love or legacy, will define the rest of his life. The ultimate royal revenge. The irony is almost too painful to ignore. This was the boy the world watched walk behind his mother's coffin. Too young to understand the weight of grief, he was carrying in front of billions. The same young man who grew into a decorated soldier, a modern royal with heart and humor, hailed as the people's prince, relatable, grounded, beloved. And now he's become a cautionary tale. Not quite royal, not fully rebellious, suspended in a strange in-between. The palace says nothing, but the silence speaks volumes. You may come home, Harry, but only if you come alone. And that is the tightrope he walks now. A single misstep, and he could lose everything. The brilliance of William's strategy lies in its elegant simplicity. The monarchy has always understood one universal truth. Relevance requires recognition. Strip away the acknowledgement, and you strip away the power. That's what they've done to Meghan. Not with public condemnation, but with absolute silence. No statements, no rebuttals, no mentions. It's the institutional version of a global block. And it's working. When Meghan arranged a glittering appearance at the Night of Wonder Gala at the Natural History Museum in Los Angeles, set for the exact same day as Trooping the Color, many saw it as a calculated move, a chance to reclaim headlines. In the past, it might have worked. A comparison piece here, a style battle there. But this time, silence. The royal family said nothing. British press barely covered it. No attention, no oxygen, no competition. Because you can't steal the spotlight from an institution that pretends you don't exist. And now, the once triumphant narrative surrounding Meghan Markle is shifting. She was once hailed as a modern icon, a woman who broke barriers, rewrote royal expectations, and captivated the media. Her story, part fairy tale, part revolution, was irresistible. She and Harry branded themselves as disruptors, truth-tellers, survivors. And for a time, it worked. The world was captivated. Hollywood came calling. Netflix, Spotify, Penguin Random House. Everyone wanted a piece of the exiled royals. But 3 years later, the shine has dulled. The Netflix docuseries faded almost as quickly as arrived. The Spotify deal collapsed. Her animated series was canceled before its debut. Her podcast struggled for traction. Even her rebranded lifestyle brand, once launched with glossy precision, feels like a whisper in a room that's already moved on. The headlines are shrinking. The momentum is stalling. The audience, tuning out. What once felt bold and fresh now feels familiar, overplayed, exhausted. And beneath the glamour, the speeches, and the curated vulnerability, the cracks are widening. Her empire, once built on sympathy and spectacle, is showing signs of quiet collapse. At the heart of it all is a man who once belonged to a kingdom, now drifting at sea, with one foot in a new world that no longer adores him, and one foot still aching for the family he left behind. A prince without a platform, a wife without a crown, and a story that no longer belongs to them, but to the silence that swallowed it whole, closing the royal chapter forever. In the end, Meghan Markle was not toppled by scandal, fury, or royal decree. She was erased by silence, not with press releases, not with angry rebuttals, but with one calm, measured decision from the man who will one day wear the crown. Prince William didn't explode. He didn't retaliate. He simply closed the door and locked it forever for a woman whose influence depended on visibility, on being seen, heard, and talked about. The silence is absolute. No interviews to challenge, no headlines to correct, no oxygen left to fuel the fire. The palace didn't end the chapter by saying her name. They simply stopped acknowledging the book existed. And for Catherine, this was never about vengeance. It was about preservation. After years of tension, quiet insults, and public pain, she asked for one final gift: peace. William gave it to her. Meghan is no longer just unwelcome. She is unspoken. And in royal life, there is no punishment more final than being forgotten. The symmetry is undeniable and cruel. Meghan, who once severed ties with her own family, who preached the power of cutting out toxicity without closure, is now on the receiving end of that same philosophy. Not with malice, but with finality. No phone calls, no reconciliation, no ending, just absence. And what of Prince Harry? He remains caught between worlds, still loved, still part of the bloodline, but no longer entirely trusted. The royal hand remains extended, but only if he chooses to step away from the storm that trails his wife's every public move. Whether he can or will remains to be seen. But as far as the crown is concerned, Meghan's chapter is closed. No title can revive it. No apology can rewrite it. She is no longer part of the monarchy by name, by image, or by memory. She hasn't stepped out of the royal story. She has been written out, and the most powerful family in Britain has ensured she stays that way. The two boys who once walked side by side behind their mother's coffin, who once promised Diana they'd always protect each other, now stand on opposite sides of a royal battlefield. William has chosen duty. Harry has chosen love. And between those choices lies the wreckage of a bond the world once believed was unbreakable. The monarchy, as always, will endure, but the cost of its survival is written in the silence between two brothers who may never speak again. If this royal bombshell left you absolutely speechless, you need to hit that subscribe button right now, because we are revealing palace secrets they desperately want to keep hidden. Drop a comment below. Team William or Team Harry?